Okay, Aravind. So let me just explain a little bit the structure we're setting up, and just to do the basics. And I think we will be able to add all the layers of refinement through the workshop and your strategic insight. So what we're doing is basically on current business management. We have a tool, and we're focused on five parts. Obviously, the vertical side, customer application. Do we have a target vertical and subsegment? Which are the channel partners that we will go to market with, where to go to market, which are the key areas that we're going to focus on in terms of getting to our customers, and the customer management or the funnel management. Where does this take us? Into these five sections, it takes us down to the dashboard that we're using as a tool, okay, where you have the different areas from channel profiling to the actual current sales management, when we're losing deals, why we're losing deals, how we're doing this, and marketing planning. Okay, if we have an objective, how are we going to use our marketing planning to get there? And then the key area, which I think that is what we're focusing on the go to market. What are our priorities? Which verticals are we focusing? What are the top accounts? So if I go to the Excel sheet here, you'll be able to see the dashboard here. I sent this to you, but I acknowledge that was pretty complicated. But here, the interesting thing that you can see is basically you have everything from channel profiling. Okay, you can. The reference is not valid. Okay, well, the channel reference is not valid, but basically, oh, oops. Okay, I know why. Okay, this is the one that we're going. Okay, so you can see the channel profiling. Basically, you can see here Japan, all the partners, what are their key characteristics. At the same time, in terms of capacity, what are the sales that we expect from each of the partners? What is the channel performance? What have they sold? When have they sold it? What are their resources allocated to this marketing investment additionally? Then we have the current business, so deal by deal kind of tracking. What do we expect? Why are we losing deals? Why are they being delayed? Pivoting of the funnel, trying to understand where we're going. But the key areas of interest, I would say for you, because we have also the marketing plan, okay? But the key areas, they go to market, the vertical and top account, okay? Here you can also see the marketing plan, which I think will be interesting. But here, when we look at the vertical focus, as you see, this is just the example of Japan. And these are just assumptions that we use to build this, and that actually you will for sure challenge and we will refine them. But here, as you see, for example, you have alignment on HP roadmap, that we have applications that have a good this our technology is a good fit for that customer segment, or what are the barriers of access to this market? For example, healthcare is in prosthetics, we have actually a pretty good value proposition, or in dental, a decent value proposition, but at the same time, in Japan, the regulation makes it a really high barrier of entry kind of market. Then transport and mobility, really big companies. That could be redefined by your access to actually some more accounts, and we could move it here. And then we need to do the market sizing, which actually this is all based on estimations or an assumption, completely assumptions. But once we have the data, I think we can work on this. This helps us also segmenting the vertical, saying, okay, this is the size of the opportunity in each case of the 100%. Where do we think the biggest part is? And then the sub-segments where we prioritize. So you see here the color priority number 1, priority number 2, priority number 3. Clearly, for example, service bureaus, number 1 priority. Our value proposition is very clearly a winner for that segment. This is clearly an area where we should be focusing: higher education, electronics, or automotive and personalized and prosthetics. These are the kind of areas that we're focusing on. Okay. At the same time, here we should be able to create action plans very clear on what we want to do, or assignment of percentages of our investment. Okay, this is kind of in the area where this is the basic that we're using to make sure that we're having a structured conversation and that we're actually giving the signals to the partners. Then if you look into the go-to-market, what gets a little bit more complex, okay? Here we have another section, a subsection that what we mentioned. We're talking about verticals, we're talking about channel, go-to-market, the funnel. And if you subdivide, well, there's 2 areas. An area where we focus on vertical plus partner, which vertical should we go in, which partners or which road to market. Might be we decide to go alone, or the actual management of the funnel, or our customer journey. So we'll be focusing on awareness, on consideration. And this type of variables, we can see them here, okay, in the go-to-market area section, where here what you see is the vertical focus. And here what we're mentioning is, okay, you have your partners. You have a ranking of priority. You think that 60% of your effort or your sales should come from Solais, 20% from Mutuo, 20% from Rico. Then you have the size of your markets. So what we're saying here is 60% of your effort should be dedicated, okay? And we think out of this effort of Solais, 70% will be focused on mobility, which it's one of the most sizable markets. 30% on industrial because it includes the electronics section, because we have companies like NEC, Panasonic that they're operating with, and similar kind of distribution into other segments. Obviously, the bulk, okay, we need to, if we had a partner that's really good at healthcare, but we know we're not going to penetrate in Japan, we shouldn't be focusing. So that gives us a mix of our investment that we think this should give us guidance in terms of where should invest. 47%, almost 50% of investment to be focused on transportation and Solais. Here you have the graphics where you can see the mobility and transportation, 47%, Solais, we shouldn't be investing in it with other partners, industrial 12%. Here you can see the kind of mix, 14%, basically part providers with Mutuo and Rico, what we think are service bureaus. At the same time, then when you focus on the second area, which is, okay, activity focus in terms of the customer journey. For example, we think that 30% of our focus right now should be on awareness, although reducing it each time more, because the customers who know about Tatooine should already be aware of Tatooine. We've already gone to all the bigger events in the country, so we should be focusing very strongly on consideration, which customers are starting to decide which technology to use, and in the decision area, we should be focusing part of our effort. This should also help us in terms of go-to-market. And then down to the actual sub-segment, which is the area of focus that we should have the most, service bureaus, clearly. We're in an initial stage. Obviously, this will be reduced in terms of focus, but we believe that a big chunk of our market and our drive should happen in service bureaus. We should have all the accounts. At the same time, we should have 20% of our focus on automotive accounts. This can be challenged. Obviously, these are all assumptions that we're building, but just to make sure that we have the same kind of focus. As you can see here, you can see it graphically in terms of, okay, investment into which partners and which verticals, which should be the segmentation in terms of our activity, and especially the sub-segmentation of service bureaus. We expect them to be 35% of our total. Where does that bring us? Into kind of following the list that you created on your accounts that you have high touch in Japan. We build a similar tool, okay, for each one of the key verticals. The team has already been working on this with Alex. Dai had already created a list and was working, actually attacking them. The only thing we're doing is we're kind of aggregating and linking all the elements. But for example, the list of top service bureaus in Japan, part provider service bureaus, who is going to lead them? Have we already introduced the technology, or are we engaged with them? Or we know our partner is there some action required that we need to for the next stage, or have they become an actual opportunity already, and we can move forward with it? This is the idea of how we want to work in terms of, in a simple way, still in a not very refined way, but in terms of breaking down all the elements in terms of vertical, as you saw, how that affects our go-to-market, and which are the top accounts that we should be focusing on. All following kind of your structure, plus the structure that we have from GBU in terms of segments, following with the work that Alex had done already with Dai in terms of accounts. We're trying to link out everything. So ideally, we will be able to put your layer, and the workshop will help us rebuild or rework on all the assumptions and build a more solid base.